You might think of gun control and feel, or you might think of gun control and think,
from my cold, dead hands.
What you probably don't think of is racism. But the history of gun control is a history riddled with racial discrimination and some irony. In his 2011 book, Gunfight, UCLA professor of law Adam Winkler argued gun control measures have been tied to anti-Black discrimination for most of the country's history. Before the Civil War, the right to own guns came with the right to own Black slaves. After the Civil War, Black Americans were finally able to own guns, which made many white Americans fear an armed rebellion. In fact, the KKK was founded in part to seize the arms of Blacks in the South. One of the biggest ironies today in the gun control debate is that groups that once supported strict gun control measures now oppose them. Like the National Rifle Association, this gun-loving organization didn't always fight for the right of all Americans to own guns. In the 1920s, the NRA promoted restrictive laws that only allowed suitable people with proper reason to own firearms because of a spike in urban crime. And in the eyes of law enforcement, immigrants, especially Italian Americans, were not necessarily the most suitable with the most proper reasons to own guns. Fast forward to the Civil Rights Movement, where Black Americans were resisting state-enforced violence. Not coincidentally, this was also the era when major gun control measures were passed. Until 1967, California, a state that today has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, was in fact open carry. During that time, the resistance group, the Black Panthers, began openly arming its members and patrolling for police abuses on the streets of Oakland. The images of armed Black activists created a frenzy, and then California Governor Ronald Reagan and the NRA supported legislation that ended the right to openly carry guns in the state. Then there were two major assassinations in 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy. Believing that easy access to guns was partly to blame for the assassinations and some of the race riots that followed, the federal government passed the most expansive gun control measures in decades, the Gun Control Act of 1968. Today, the politics of gun control have shifted dramatically, but race still plays a role. Consider this. When American politicians, the NRA, and certain conservative groups and militias want their guns for protection, the question to ask is, protection from who?